Have you ever had that moment, maybe late at night, looking at something you've created, or even like mid-thought, and this little question just pops into your head, what do I truly have authority on? And maybe you get that little shiver, that sudden doubt, wondering if your voice, your own experience, actually matters enough. If that sounds even vaguely familiar, then you're in exactly the right place for this deep dive. Today we're getting into something really personal, but also, I think, universal. It's kind of a shortcut to understanding authority, self-worth, and, impact, especially for creative people. We're going to explore a perspective that really flips the script on what authority means, not just for authors, but for anyone, really, who wants to share their lived truth. Our guide today is this fantastic piece, What Do I Have Authority On? Kay's Odyssey, written by someone known as Kay's Cornering. And what's really special is, we have Kay right here with us. She's not just the author of the piece, she is the protagonist. She lived this journey. So she's here to walk us through it, her own odyssey. Sharing the answers, the real answers, she found when she asked herself those, frankly, quite scary questions. You're getting it straight from the source.
Hi. Yeah, it's really great to be here. It does feel a bit like stepping back into, a very specific, intense time in my life, but, maybe with a bit more clarity now. Looking back helps with that. I'm definitely ready to talk about it, the messy bits, the breakthroughs, all of it, and hopefully share something that might help you see your own path a bit differently, maybe, with a bit more kindness.
We're so glad you're here to do that, because what we're diving into is that whole arc, isn't it? From that almost paralyzing self-doubt right through to finding your authentic voice. We'll look at how vulnerability connects to value, which is fascinating, and pull out the practical lessons you learned the hard way as an author. It's a story I suspect a lot of listeners will connect with no matter what field they're in. So let's start where you started in your piece. You admitted right away when you first asked yourself, what do I have authority on?
Yeah.
You just froze. That word authority. It's heavy, isn't it? Why do you think it has that effect? Why does it make so many of us, especially creative types, just seize up like that?
Oh, I absolutely froze. Yeah, it wasn't just a thoughtful pause, it was a complete stop. Because authority, it's not a neutral word, is it? It carries so much weight. For me, and I think for a lot of people, it just instantly brings up this huge, intimidating image. Like you immediately picture mastery. Decades of study, shelves packed with awards, PhDs, bestseller lists. It makes you think of being the absolute go-to expert, the one person who has all the answers, who's reached some kind of peak performance, some kind of perfection. And when you compare yourself to that, especially when you're right in the thick of creating something uncertain, whether it's a book or, starting a business or even just a new chapter in life, it's just incredibly easy to feel like you completely missed the mark. It felt like I had to be the world's leading expert on something massive. And honestly, staring at that question, I just thought, I don't have anything like that. Not even close. So claiming authority felt audacious, almost dishonest, really, because master was the last thing I felt like.
That freezing moment, that feeling of not enough when faced with this grand idea of authority with a capital A. Yeah, I think everyone gets that on some level. Maybe, like you wrote about, you spent nights staring at some dashboard sales figures, website stats, whatever, and the numbers just don't match the heart you poured in. Or it's that blinking cursor on a blank screen just mocking you. The weight of what you think you should produce just crushes the spark. Maybe it's your confidence just sort of leaking away with every blog post nobody reads, or a tweet that gets no likes, or that one lukewarm review that feels like a personal attack. It's that common feeling, isn't it? That unless you have the official badges, the perfect record, you just don't have the right to speak up or share or lead. It silences so many people.
Exactly. And honestly, for a really long time, my genuine answer to what do I have authority on was just nothing. Simple as that. Nothing at all. That traditional view of authority, the one based on external proof, it was just so limiting. And frankly, it just sucked the power right out of me. It tied my worth, my whole ability to even try, to these outside things that felt completely unreachable. But, as I kept going, kept writing, kept trying things, kind of stubbornly, really, even with all the doubt, something started to shift. It slowly dawned on me that authority, real authority, maybe isn't always about being the world's best expert in that old school credentialed way. My whole viewpoint started to soften, evolve, I guess. It became less about a checklist and more about something internal, organic.
Okay, that feels like a really important turning point, because this is where your piece offers such a different way of looking at it. You talk about this evolved idea of authority, one that deliberately looks beyond just the trophies and the formal expertise. You identified 3 pillars, right? 3 core things that make up this truer kind of authority. What are they?
Yeah, my understanding definitely changed. It was like chipping away at this big, imposing statue and finding something simpler, more human underneath. I realized that true authority, the kind that actually connects with people, that inspires them, that makes a real difference, it's not built on being perfect. It stands on three really crucial, very human pillars. So the first one is having the courage to share your lived truth. And this isn't about pretending you've got it all figured out. Not at all. It's about being brave enough to talk about your experience, your specific challenges, what you actually went through, the insights you picked up along the way. Even if it feels messy or unfinished or, not perfectly polished, it's just saying, look, this happened to me and this is what I learned from it.
Okay. Courage to share your lived truth. That makes sense. What's the second pillar?
The second is the generosity to teach what you've learned. So once you've navigated something tough, once you've gained some understanding through your own trials and errors, your authority really grows when you're willing to share that, to pass it on, to genuinely help light the way for someone else who's maybe just entering that same storm. It's like moving from, phew, I made it through, to, okay, here are some things that might help you get through this too.
Right. Sharing the knowledge, generosity. Got it. And the third?
And the third pillar is the empathy to hold space for others navigating the same storm. This one's crucial. It's not just about what you know or even what you teach. It's about how you connect with other people who are in that same boat, feeling those same struggles. It's offering understanding, saying, I get it, validating their feelings without judgment, creating that sense of, hey, we're in this together. It means really listening, acknowledging their pain, and just letting them know they're not alone.
Wow. That really does shift the focus completely, doesn't it? It takes authority away from the external stuff, the degrees, the sales numbers, the awards, and grounds it right back into these core human things: courage, generosity, empathy. How does reframing it like that make authority more accessible? Does it sort of democratize it so it's not just for the people with the fancy resumes?
It totally democratizes it because it says that everyone's unique experience has inherent value. Think about it. If authority only belonged to the officially certified experts with perfect track records, well, most of us would just have to stay silent, right? But that's not reality. Everyone, literally everyone, has a lived truth. We've all weathered storms, maybe personal, maybe professional. We've all learned things, often surprising things, that you just can't find in a textbook. This new definition means your authority isn't tied to some external prize you might never win. It depends on your internal willingness, your willingness to be real about your story and share it in a way that actually helps someone else. It's about connection, about resonance, not just collecting credentials. So yeah, it makes authority something anyone can cultivate. It's not some exclusive club anymore. It's just human.
Okay, let's make this really concrete for people listening. How does this apply outside of writing? Say someone isn't an author. Maybe they're running a small business, hitting challenges, or they're, a community organizer trying to make change, or even just someone navigating a big life shift, becoming a parent, maybe, or retiring. How can they claim authority using their lived truth instead of just pointing to qualifications? What's the kind of aha moment here for someone listening?
The aha moment, I think, is realizing that your most powerful asset isn't just what you know. It's the journey you took to know it. The messy path, the detours, the hard lessons. That's what gives you a unique perspective nobody else has. Take that small business owner. Maybe they don't have an MBA, but their authority. It comes from the sheer guts it took to start the business. It comes from being generous enough to share the mistakes they made, the things that didn't work, and then maybe those clever little pivots that finally did work. And their authority also comes from the empathy they have for someone else just starting out feeling totally lost.
Right, the shared struggle.
Exactly. Or the community organizer. Maybe no fancy degree in urban planning. But their authority comes from living in that community, from the courage to speak up for people who aren't being heard, from the generosity of teaching others how to organize, how to find their voice together, and from that deep empathy for people feeling pushed aside. In any field, really, it's about consciously using your own story, the real unpolished version, as your most authentic form of authority. It's realizing that things like authenticity, vulnerability, resilience, those are powerful credentials in themselves. They build trust in a way that a piece of paper often can't. It's about turning your struggles into your superpower, really, and sharing that.
That's a really empowering way to think about it. So turning it back to you specifically, Kay, if authority isn't just about being the expert, what specific lived truth do you claim authority over? What's your corner of hard-won knowledge?
Okay, so my real authority, the thing I know deep in my bones that I have authority on, it's knowing exactly what it feels like to pour every single drop of your soul, your time, your creative fire into writing a book. and then launching it, only to stare at a sales dashboard that's basically blank or close to it and have that awful sinking feeling asking yourself, why? Why is nobody buying my book? That is my lived truth. I haven't just studied it. I've been there. I walked right through that specific, lonely, incredibly frustrating storm. It's something so many authors, especially indie authors, know intimately. It's that painful moment where your passion just slams into the brick wall of the market and the silence is just crushing.
And you really paint a picture of the specifics in your writing. It's not just a vague author struggle. You mentioned the late nights, wrestling with blurbs, that awkward feeling about selling. Can you bring us into that space a bit more? What did that actually look like day to day?
Oh yeah, it's definitely in the nitty-gritty details. It's not some abstract concept. I have authority on those nights, when everyone else is asleep and you're just sitting there staring at the screen, agonizing over price points. Seriously, should it be $2.99? Is that cheap? Or $4.99? Does that signal value? What's the magic number that makes someone click buy? It feels ridiculous, but it's consuming. And the blurbs, oh my God, the blurbs. Rewriting them over and over and over, trying to capture the essence of this thing you poured your life into like 150 words that has to be grabby and compelling. It feels impossible. It never feels good enough. You're trying to be a marketer and protect the soul of your work at the same time.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And then there's talking about it, trying to learn how to mention your book without feeling like you're pushing used cars. You believe in your work. You want people to read it, connect with it. But that moment when someone asks, what do you do? Or what's new? And you feel you have to pitch it. It can feel so forced, so transactional. It's this constant tightrope walk, balancing the vulnerable act of creation with the cold reality of needing people to actually buy the thing. Okay. Every little rejection, even just an ignored post, can feel like a rejection of you.
And that emotional toll sounds immense. You talk about the heartbreak of rejection, which is very real, but then you mentioned something really interesting, the strange healing that comes when you realize you can't tie your self-worth to the numbers on your sales dashboard.
Yes.
That sounds like a massive shift, a real breakthrough. Can you tell us more about that healing? How did you actually get to that point of detachment? Because that's huge.
It was absolutely huge, probably the most important lesson in all of this. Because the heartbreak is real. It comes in so many forms. The polite no from an agent, a really mean online review, or just the steady, silent rejection of those low sales numbers. And because your book feels like a part of you, your soul on paper, those rejections feel intensely personal. For a long, long time, my sense of self-worth, not just as an author, but as a person, was completely tangled up with those numbers. If sales were bad, I felt bad, like a failure, like my words didn't matter, like I didn't matter. It was suffocating.
How did you break free from that?
Slowly. It wasn't overnight. But it started when I finally, truly, deep down, accepted that my value as a human being, my worth as a creative person, just could not depend on something so external, so unpredictable, so frankly out of my control as a sales report. It was a conscious decision, an uncoupling. I had to deliberately separate my inherent worth from the market's response. And that was incredibly freeing. It didn't mean I stopped caring about the book or wanting people to read it, but it meant I could keep creating, keep sharing, not because I needed the sales to prove I was okay, but because I had something I needed to say, a story to tell, a truth to express. It shifted my whole motivation from desperately seeking validation to just authentically expressing myself. Regardless of the numbers, it was about taking back my own power, my own creative joy.
That's such a powerful shift from proving worth to expressing truth. Okay, so you navigated that really tough emotional landscape. You had that breakthrough. What did work then? You said you have authority on that too, because I stayed in the ring. What did that persistence, that sticking with it, actually teach you about connecting with readers, about making your work land?
Right. Staying in the ring wasn't just about being stubborn, though maybe there was a bit of that too. It meant refusing to quit, even when everything screamed give up. But more than that, it meant treating the whole author thing like an ongoing experiment. My mistake early on was thinking, write book, publish book, wait for magic. That didn't happen. So instead, I committed to actively trying things, testing, adapting, learning from every single thing that didn't work, and then trying again, but differently.
What kinds of things did you test?
Oh, everything. Different ways to talk about the book, social media posts, longer blog articles, little video clips, different places to promote it, tweaking the book description constantly, trying different keywords, different categories. But the most important part was paying really close attention to what actually seemed to resonate, what words caught people's interest, what themes got an emotional reaction, what made someone curious enough to actually consider spending their time and money on my story. It wasn't about finding one secret trick or magic bullet. It was just consistent effort, iteration, and really trying to listen to potential readers, trying to understand what they were looking for, what questions they had, and then thinking, how can my story, my lived truth, genuinely connect with that? So it's resilience, yes, but also a kind of empathetic curiosity. What do they need? How can I meet them there?
That whole idea of it being iterative, adaptive, not waiting for one big fix, that's such a key takeaway for anyone pursuing something they care about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're struggling to get seen or connect with their audience.
I think so. The big implication is that success, whatever that looks like for you, is almost never a straight line. It's rarely about one perfect launch or a single moment of genius. It's much more about just showing up consistently, even when it's hard, even when you're discouraged. It's about being willing to change course when something clearly isn't working. To see failures not as dead ends, but as data, as learning opportunities, and then refining your approach based on what you're actually seeing and hearing.
So it applies way beyond writing.
Absolutely. Whether you're an author, an artist, an entrepreneur, someone learning a new skill, that staying in the ring mindset is vital. It's the difference between quitting at the first hurdle or the first wave of doubt and pushing through to figure out what really connects. Not just for you, but for the people you're trying to reach. It shows that real connection, real impact often comes from lots of small, consistent, empathetic actions over time. It's the quiet power of just keeping going, fueled by passion and a willingness to adapt.
You've shared so much about the author's struggle and that resilience, but you also make a point of saying your authority isn't about teaching people how to get rich quick. Instead, you introduce this really fascinating idea, the book as an energy exchange. That feels pivotal. It reframes that whole author-reader thing away from just being a sale. Can you unpack that? What do you mean an energy exchange?
Yeah, this concept really became my anchor, my true north. For too long, I think I and maybe many authors saw the book just as a product, an item, something you make, market, sell, like inventory. But I started to realize that view totally misses the magic, the essence of what happens when someone actually reads your words. A book is so much more than paper and ink. It really is an energy exchange.
Right.
Think about it. When a reader decides to read your book, they're giving you their most valuable stuff, their time, which they can never get back, their focus, their attention, and often their emotional energy. They're opening themselves up to your world, your ideas.
Okay, I see the reader's investment.
Right. And in return, you, the author, are offering a huge piece of your energy, your insights, your vulnerability, your imagination, all those hours you spent crafting those sentences. So yes, money might change hands, but fundamentally, it's not just a commercial transaction. It's this deep, energetic connection being formed between two people who might never even meet. It's a giving and receiving of energy, intellectual, emotional, maybe even spiritual energy.
So if it's this profound exchange, what are readers really buying then? It sounds like more than just a plot or information.
Yeah.
And what does it mean for a story to truly meet readers where they are?
Exactly. They are definitely not just buying a physical object or even just a good story. What readers are truly seeking, what they buy into, are stories that meet them where they are, which means meeting them in their current life situation, in their struggles, their hopes, their questions, their joys. They're looking for resonance, for something that clicks.
Resonance, okay.
Yeah. They buy honesty. They want to feel your real voice, know there's a genuine person behind the words. They buy vulnerability. They connect deeply when you're willing to be open about your own flaws and struggles, because it makes them feel less alone in theirs, you know? When you show your cracks, they see theirs reflected, and that builds a bridge. And ultimately, I think they buy transformation, even if it's small. The hope that by engaging with your story, they might see things differently, understand themselves better, feel inspired, or just be moved in some meaningful way. It really is about resonance over persuasion. If your story genuinely speaks to their experience, holds up a mirror, offers a bit of light or understanding for their path, that's where the real magic, the real exchange happens. It stops being just a book and becomes this shared human moment, a channel for connection and growth.
And this whole philosophy, this understanding of the book as an energy exchange, that's exactly what you dig into in your book, Why Is Nobody Buying My Book? It's described as, let me get this right, a practical and deeply personal look at how money mindset, storytelling, and emotional resonance shape your success as an author. Can you connect those dots for us? How does your own lived experience, this energy exchange idea, translate into the practical stuff your book offers?
Yes, absolutely. That book, Why Is Nobody Buying My Book, is the direct result of everything we've been talking about. Filtered through my own, often painful, but ultimately really clarifying experience of asking that exact question. The book isn't just theory. It came straight out of my own messy real-life journey. So it mixes the practical side of being an author, like understanding your money mindset. You know, those often subconscious beliefs we have about our own worth, our value, whether we even deserve to be paid for creative work. That stuff hugely impacts how willing we are to actually sell our book.
Right, the internal blocks.
Totally. And it looks at the craft of storytelling itself, not just plot points, but how do you write stories that genuinely create that deep connection, that resonance we talked about. But the crucial thread tying it all together is emotional resonance. Because I realized that the emotional connection with your reader, and actually with your own work, that's what drives long-term success much more than any temporary sales spike. So the book tries to guide authors away from that place of fear and doubt, maybe even shame about selling, towards a place where they can connect confidently, authentically, where marketing actually feels like serving people. It's basically me offering the tools, the insights, the emotional frameworks that I desperately wish someone had given me when I was stuck in that awful "why isn't anyone buying this" loop. It's like holding out a hand to say, I get it, let's walk this way.
That blend of mindset, craft, and emotion feels really holistic.
Yeah.
And then you have this other amazing reframe. You say, marketing can be more like healing than hustling. That cuts right against so much marketing advice that feels pushy, aggressive. What does marketing as healing actually look like? How does that change things for an author, or really for anyone trying to share their work without feeling like they're selling their soul?
This was such a huge shift for me, almost spiritual, really, because traditional marketing, all the funnels, the persuasive tactics, the constant hustle, it often feels just icky, inauthentic, draining, especially if you're a bit more sensitive or introverted. It's all about pushing, convincing. When I started to consciously think about marketing as healing, my whole approach just flipped.
How so? What changes?
The intention changes completely. Instead of trying to convince someone to buy, I started focusing on genuinely connecting with them, trying to understand what are their struggles, what are they hoping for, what questions keep them up at night, and then thinking, how might my story or my insights or my lived truth offer some kind of gentle healing or understanding, or maybe just a little bit of light for their journey. It became about service, rooted in being real, in connecting.
So marketing becomes part of the conversation, not just a sales pitch.
Exactly. For an author, it means your marketing isn't just about ads or clever taglines. It's about continuing the conversation your book started. Inviting readers into a space where they feel seen, understood, maybe even changed a little, just like you were maybe changed by writing the book. Suddenly, marketing stops feeling like this horrible chore you have to do. It feels like a natural extension of why you created the thing in the first place. A way to serve your audience by sharing the stuff that helped you, the vulnerabilities that make them feel less alone. It becomes about building real trust, real community, which honestly is way more sustainable and fulfilling than any hard sell tactic. It changes the definition of success, too, away from just numbers, towards impact, connection, transformation.
Okay, it's so clear your journey has been this ongoing process, building layer upon layer. You mentioned that a lot of these insights came from the lessons from my first book, Diary of Cliches. Can you take us back there? What was that like, going from writing Diary of Cliches to realizing you needed to figure out, why is nobody buying my book? What specific things happened with that first book that led to the second?
Yeah, Diary of Cliches was, well, it was my first real attempt. My first book, baby. It was incredibly personal, just reflections on everyday life, trying to find something fresh in the familiar. I poured everything into it. But then putting it out there, the silence was deafening, the sales were tiny, that feeling of being invisible after all that work.
Right.
It just hit me like a ton of bricks. That's when the question, why is nobody buying my book, started echoing.
Right.
Constantly, it became this obsessive thought.
So the first book created the question.
Precisely. Diary of Cliches was the experience that forced me to confront these really uncomfortable questions. It came from pure passion, the creative urge, but its reception or lack of reception slammed me face first into the realities of the market, the stuff nobody teaches you in writing workshops. I realized writing the book was maybe only half the job. The other half, the part I was completely unprepared for, was figuring out how to connect that book with the people it was actually for. So the struggles with Diary of Cliches directly created the need for the answers that became, why is nobody buying my book? The second book isn't just about marketing tactics. It was my attempt to answer those painful questions I was asking myself and offer that path to others who felt just as lost and, frankly, heartbroken as I did.
And it sounds like getting through that wasn't easy at all. You talk about the moments when I almost gave up. Sharing that takes guts. How do those really low points, those moments of near surrender, actually contribute to your authority now? And why do you think they connect so strongly with listeners facing their own challenges?
Oh, those moments were dark, really raw. There were so many times I genuinely thought, what is the point? This is just too hard. Clearly nobody cares. My voice doesn't matter. The urge to just stop, walk away entirely, delete everything, it was intense. I seriously considered shutting down Case Corner and just vanishing. It felt easier than facing the silence. But it was right there, in those moments of wanting to quit, that I had to really dig deep. Why was I doing this? Was it just for sales? For validation? Or was it because I truly felt I had something to share, something that needed saying, regardless of how many people bought it? Sharing those low points, I think it validates my authority, not because I'm some superhero who never struggled. Not at all. It's the opposite. It validates it because I went through it. I sat in that despair, and I consciously chose to keep going, to find another way. It says to the listener, hey, I've been exactly where you might be right now. I know that feeling of wanting to give up. It makes me less of an expert talking down from above, and more of a fellow traveler who understands the bumps in the road because I hit them too. And that resonates, I think, because anyone pursuing something meaningful hits those walls. Those moments of doubt, frustration, feeling defeated. Knowing someone else has been there and found a way through, it makes the advice feel real, earned, battle-tested, not just theoretical, offered with real empathy.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. And it shows such a clear evolution. Diary of Clichés was the catalyst, the creative act leading to the struggle. That struggle then defined the area you gained authority in. And that struggle birthed the second book, Why Is Nobody Buying My Book? As the solution, the shared path forward. It really is a full circle. And looking beyond just those two books, your ongoing presence with Case Corner and the blog post you mentioned things like what truly gets better with age, how do you express gratitude? You know, even pieces about the journey behind Diaries of Clichés, like Welcome to the Cliché Cafe or Let's Leave the Snooze Button Behind. How does continuing to share in that way consistently connect to this whole journey? Does it reinforce that authentic sharing you talk about?
That's a great point. Yeah, Case Corner isn't just, a marketing tool for the books. It's more like my thinking out loud, my lived truth continuing to unfold. Posts like, what truly gets better with age? Or how do you express gratitude? Those are just me, genuinely grappling with life stuff, figuring things out as I go, and sharing it. Welcome to the Cliché Cafe, or let's leave the snooze button behind. That's me playing with everyday ideas, trying to offer a slightly different angle. So putting that stuff out there alongside the books, it shows that this commitment I have to sharing, to being vulnerable, to teaching what I learned. It's not just about one topic. It's not just contained in the books. It's an ongoing thing, a practice. It reinforces that my authority, such as it is, isn't this fixed thing I achieved once. It's a dynamic. It evolves as I keep living, learning, reflecting, and just sharing the journey, the writing stuff, the personal growth stuff, just navigating life. And hopefully that consistent, real presence builds more trust, more connection than just popping up to sell something ever could. It's like saying, hey, I'm still figuring things out too, and here's what I'm thinking about now. Let's figure it out together.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. As we start to wrap up this deep dive, what's the core message you really want to leave with listeners, especially those who might be feeling unqualified right now, or unworthy, or just completely unseen after hearing your story? What's the big takeaway about finding your own authority, the liberating part?
Okay, the core message. The thing I really hope sinks in is this. If you have ever felt unqualified, if you've wrestled with feeling unworthy, if you felt invisible in whatever it is you're trying to do, please remember this. Real authority does not come from having a perfect track record. It does not come from bestseller badges or fancy awards or degrees. It absolutely does not come from external validation or trying to fit into someone else's narrow definition of success. That whole idea is mostly an illusion. It's a gatekeeper, honestly, that keeps way too many important, needed voices quiet. Don't buy into it.
Okay, so if it doesn't come from those external things, those things society tells us matter, where does it come from? What's the real source anyone can tap into?
It comes, quite simply, from your willingness to share your real, unpolished journey. That's it. That is where the true power, the real connection, the magnetic resonance actually lies. And the unpolished part is so important because it's in the messiness, the mistakes, the struggles, the raw honesty of your actual experience. That's where other people find themselves. That's where they connect. When you have the guts to share your authentic truth, warts and all, you do more than just speak. You create this space, an empathetic space where other people suddenly feel less alone in their struggles. You're not pretending to be perfect. You're being a companion who gets it because you've walked that winding road yourself, bumps and all. That willingness to be vulnerable, to show the process, not just the shiny result. That's the ultimate act of generosity. And it's so freeing Because it means your authority is always right there within you. It's tied to your unique life, your story, who you actually are.
That is incredibly freeing. It totally shifts the goalpost, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From chasing external achievements to embracing internal authenticity and generosity. Your own final definition of your authority really sums it all up. How do you put it now after coming through all this?
So what do I have authority on now? Okay. I have authority on the messy, honest, and ultimately healing reality of being an author or any creator, really, who wants their work to genuinely matter, beyond just sales figures. And just as importantly, I also have authority on the practical tools, the mindset shifts that can help you do that too. Whatever that is for you, writing, building something, sharing your voice. It's kind of a dual promise, I guess. I understand the emotional roller coaster, the fear, the doubt, the breakthrough, because I lived it. But I also found actionable strategies, real insights along the way that help me stay in the game, keep going, and connect with people in a deeper way. It's both the inner work and the outer work.
And that dual promise, like you said, it really does go beyond just authors. Your story is such a clear roadmap for anyone with something to share. So, Kate, what's your final invitation to everyone listening today after exploring all of this together?
My invitation to you listening right now is this. If you feel ready to finally claim your own story, to stop dimming your light, ready to maybe answer that question that's been haunting you, whether it's why is nobody buying my book, or why isn't my message getting through, oh crap, or just why do I feel so unheard, then I genuinely love to share what I figured out along the way, to walk alongside you, in spirit anyway, because after all the doubt, all the struggle, I believe this completely. Your words deserve to be read. Your unique perspective, born from your life, deserves to be heard. And you just as you are, with your beautifully unpolished truth, you deserve to trust that your voice matters. Because it does. It absolutely unequivocally does. Your journey is your authority. Own it.
That's a powerful place to end. Kate, this has been an absolutely extraordinary deep dive. Thank you. Your journey just perfectly shows how that scary word, authority, can be transformed. It moves from being about outside approval, perfection, ticking boxes, into something internal, empowering, and deeply empathetic. Just the act of sharing your real journey, even the messy parts. Your story as an author, with all its honesty, its tough moments, its breakthroughs, it really offers lessons for anyone creating anything or just trying to live and share with purpose. And to you, our listener, remember, you have your own unique lived truth. You've navigated your own storms, learned your own lessons, gained your own insights that nobody else has in quite the same way. And as Kay showed us so clearly today, that truth, however imperfect or unpolished it feels, holds its own real, undeniable authority. So maybe the next time you hesitate to share your story, offer an idea, speak your mind, just pause. Ask yourself this. What seemingly unpolished, maybe even slightly uncomfortable part of my own journey might be the exact thing someone else needs right now. Needs to feel seen or understood or maybe just a little bit inspired. Think about where your own messy, honest, and healing reality could actually be your greatest source of authority. We really hope you'll take Khan's insights, reflect on them, and see how they might apply in your own life, your own work. Remembering that figuring out and owning your authority is not a one-time thing, it's a journey. And it starts right where you are, with your truth.